Hey guys, welcome to today's video where we are going to talk about the importance of learning cold approach to supplement your online dating activities. In fact, Joel and I were actually talking about it today, so we figured this should be a good enough topic as of any.
Yeah,
That's a real thing to say.
100%. Yeah, and I was actually curious. Like, I was asking Jaren, I'm like, because Jaren promotes that you do need to learn cold approach, even if you're just doing online dating, even if you just want hookups. And I was kind of like, Jared, like, why do you need to know cold approach? Like, what is the specifics of that? So,
Yeah, I'll just dive into the meat of that conversation. So, really, guys, when it comes down to it, there's two ways of communicating in the modern digital world. As you know, you're watching a video right now. This is digitally mediated communication. I don't see anyone else in here aside from Joel. So, online dating is no different. You're going to set up your profiles, you're going to connect to your Instagram, you have whatever your messaging apps or SMS you use to actually set the logistics for the date. That is all digitally mediated communication. However, at some point, you're going to get the girl on the date. She's going to get out of the Uber, out of her car. You're going to meet her at a place, and you're going to be face to face in the flesh. And what are you going to do there? Okay, yeah, your profile converts. Your texting scripts are down pat. She confirmed. She didn't flake. She's here in front of you. But now what do? And I think that's where cold approach comes in because it requires you to develop a very specific skill set. And that is being comfortable talking to strangers in person, which a lot of people in the modern world, I think, lack. And in this case, you're not just talking to any random stranger like a cashier or a bartender or someone who might be providing you service.
right.
You're talking to someone you are actually physically attracted to and someone who ideally you would like to get something romantically started with. So that adds a whole nother layer of complexity, which is why I think cold approach, it is an essential skill set to learn. And I'm curious to know why you initially got into cold approach and went all the way or 100% into it.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for me, I started off in sales. So I was selling shoes at a shoe store. And I was at a place where, I thought I was going to get successful. I thought I was going to become like really self-improved. And then women would just kind of flock to me. Guess what?
That never happened.
Never happened. I was like, dang it. Like, I got to start learning this. And actually, that's when I found you through when you were online. And if you guys don't know, I actually booked a session with Jaren. That's how we initially met. And
Yep.
I mean, it's come full circle for sure.
Clicking the link down below. Let's get started.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
You might come live in our third room, which we don't have, but we'll make one. So yeah, it was like, I realized that for me, online dating wasn't super successful. Like, I didn't have good photos, which you teach a lot. You need good photos. I didn't have a good bio. I didn't have a good profile. And therefore, girls would not swipe on me. So I didn't know, like, I hadn't been working with you at the time, so I didn't know there was a solution to this. I thought, okay, my only option now is cold approach. Like, I have to just start.
You have to do
talking
something.
girl.
Yeah.
Exactly. And with the shoe sales, I could just like sell a girl a pair of shoes and then practice flirting with her. Eventually, my boss said, you can't do this anymore. So I had to then go out in the street and do it like, in that sense, which was actually quite scary at first when I first started, but it really taught me a lot more than just like how to talk to women, right? It really helped with my actual social skills, which I was very introverted, very anxious at the time. I spent a lot of time alone, like kind of doing my self-improvement work. And so I still really didn't remember how to talk to people, and I had to kind of learn that skill again. So that's why I asked you. I was very curious, like why you would recommend it to somebody that is wanting to do the online or can have success online. I think you put it pretty well. Like, eventually you are going to have that date. And, when I asked you earlier, you put it really well about like if you're too afraid to talk to a stranger and say hello, you're going to be too afraid on the date. So can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, I'll definitely go ahead and do that. So breaking it down, like as I mentioned earlier, between the digital and analog trade-off, or sometimes there's even a disconnect. And I used to be this guy too, to where I have the good photos. I have the optimized dating apps. I have it linked to my Instagram. I have enough followers to where I'm like technically a micro influencer, have everything verified. So everything checks out from a structural standpoint.
Yeah.
And I've actually gone through this experience too, where you get your pipeline going, you all of a sudden you've ironed out all the bottlenecks, all the kinks, and now you just have a steady flow of women coming into your life. But what happens if you don't know how to communicate with the girl? Because you have a good profile. I have an offer on there. Whatever she says in the conversation, even if she deviates a bit, I bring it back to that offer. And then I keep bringing that home in terms of that I'm going to bring her home, essentially, at the end of the day. So once she shows up, it's like, what do I do now?
Yeah.
And it doesn't really matter at that point if I met her via cold approach or if I met her via online dating apps. That's really just lead sourcing that we're talking about at that point. So it doesn't matter if she's analog or digital. Eventually it will go digital. You'll have to text her. You can do FaceTime. You can do voice notes. And that digital will eventually go analog, where you're in the flesh, in person.
Mhm.
And a lot of guys that I work with, especially, they'll get one or the other down, and then they'll get to the point to where, okay, she's coming through, she's responding, she's being receptive, she actually shows up, and then, hey, I'm on the date, what do I do now? Or they don't know how to manage the date to where they're not escalating, they're not building attraction, they're not doing things to separate themselves from the friend category in terms of like, hey, I want to be intimate with you. I don't want to be just friends.
Yeah.
And then they get really frustrated. And a lot of the emergency messages we get, oh my God, I'm on a date and I went for the kiss at the very end. It was really awkward. And she pulled back and said, let's just be friends. Like, okay, so there's something you're not doing right in person. Although, again, for me too, everything from a structural standpoint is down pat. Yet when you get her in person, that energy is just not translating to those types of environments. And again, I agree, cold approach. And I used to be, I was never against cold approach, but I was more so online is so efficient.
Yeah.
Like, why would I do cold approach?
Right.
And it's for those moments when you and I are out and a girl's walking by and we get the eyes and she says 1, 2, 3 Mississippi eye count. In my head, 3, 2, 1, go. Hey, I'm Jaron. Go talk to her.
Yes.
Because you can still be the online dating king, but you see that pretty girl walking down the street and you have a million reasons. Well, I don't know. She's going a different direction, or if she's with someone, or, oh, I'm kind of in a hurry, or I'm just getting back from the gym, which I am. Like, oh, maybe I have a weird funk going. Maybe I'm sweating. Maybe I got grease on my forehead.
Sure.
All of these things go through your head. And then before you muster up the courage mentally, oh, I'm going to go talk to her. She's a couple blocks away.
And she's gone.
Which I've seen you take off and run a couple blocks. Like, yeah, hold on. Let me go get that one. Hey.
Dude, I ran after so many chicks.
Yeah, we'll be walking and I'm talking to you, and then all of a sudden, like, where's Joel? And then you're fast too, just scurrying down the street.
It actually is a good approach because you don't have to be smooth because you're already just
Yeah, I was actually jogging.
Speak English.
I was actually jogging in jeans.
I only jog in jeans.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an American thing. Oh,
Yeah.
it's just oh, you're American? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
The conversation could expand. And, I love those points, Jaron, because for me, I would do approaches and I would have such good approaches and get a connection, but I didn't know how to convert online. So I would get her number and I could never set up a date. So it makes sense why you need to learn online to supplement cold approach. Mm-hmm. And it's starting to make sense why you need cold approach to supplement online. So how does actually doing the approaches, talking to the women, facing that fear, help actually when you're on a date and in face with her in person?
Yeah, so I think it's like anything. For example, if you go to the gym, you want to practice progressive overload. So whatever you can lift today, you want to add a little bit more tomorrow, and then a little bit more than that, a little bit more than that. I think cold approach for a lot of guys, it is really scary. So that would be akin to, okay, yeah, I can bench the bar for unlimited reps, but let's load 2 or 3 plates on there. That's the cold approach equivalent to where, okay, maybe I can do it, but this is going to be tough. But then once you get to that point to where you can routinely lift higher weights, then it's nothing to go back and train at lower weights. So I think the fact that cold approach is so extreme, I mean, guys, do a poll next time. When you're out with your friend group, ask the guys, when's the last time you saw a woman that you found physically attractive out in public, and you went up to her with the sole intent of getting her number or whatever other information, with the sole intent of moving things forward romantically? Mm-hmm. And most guys will give you that deer in headlight look. They can't even fathom the idea, and most of them probably have never done it.
Sure,
And again, you and I have both been there where you see girls out all the time. You're like, oh, I'd like to get to know her. You start to build that fantasy. What would it be like? And when you develop that cold approach muscle, then it goes from, oh, what would it be like to get with her, to literally, oh, I could get with her.
Yeah. I can go on a date with her.
Yeah.
She could be my girlfriend.
Like, oh, it'd be nice to have her. It's like, no, I could have her.
Yeah.
Now, that's not saying, there's weirdos that follow this stuff sometimes. That's not saying any specific girl, but the type of girl you want.
Yes. Yep.
Like, oh, I want a fun fit chick that I'd meet at the gym. Okay, well, you get in the habit of talking to girls at the gym. One of them's going to come through at some point.
100%.
But if you keep gawking and wondering and fantasizing, then it'll never happen. And also, it gives you a weird energy. I mentioned to you this weekend, I did some traveling. I went out with some old friends I hadn't seen in a while. And the whole time the guy's like, oh, let's go to this park. There's a lot of girls there. Oh, hey, let's go here. There's tons of girls. I'm like, okay, we're here, but none of you guys are talking to girls. I am. I'm getting numbers, and I'm only in town for a couple of days, so I don't have time to really do anything with these leads. But why would we go to places where there's lots of hot girls if we're not going to do anything with them? It's kind of a pointless endeavor.
Yeah, it's almost like in high school where you're like all the boys are like sitting at one lunch table and like
Yeah.
looking at the girls, but no one is ever going to talk to them, and it's just
Yeah.
kind of awkward energy like that. 100%. And like I like the point you said there too. Like, not every girl you're going to approach is going to be your potential girlfriend, right? Like
Mhm.
you are going to face a lot of rejection, and I mean, you will, girls will not want to date you and not want you part of their
It makes
life,
you
and that's cool.
stronger.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so facing rejection, how does that help then when you're on the actual date?